Jyoti's here.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Hi, Smita. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Smita.
Hi, good afternoon, Jyoti. Good afternoon, Shobna. All right, we're just giving it a couple of minutes for our panel members to be there. So let's get started. Thank you very much. This is a very special webinar for us. You all must be aware that we concluded PoSH Awards in December 22, 9th of December, which all of you know is a special day. So we had 25 organizations who won the award, and we have invited one of them for the conversation today. And we have also invited one of the jury members to actually understand what is it that you need to be there on that first 25 list, right? And we were very keen to do this in January because, as you all know, that from PoSH perspective, it's the calendar year. So we have to start planning in January, and we have the entire year before we do our annual submission to plan out what we can do. And many organizations I know we work closely just does not want to do check in the box, and they want to do more, and they want to hear creative ideas that what can be done. So welcome everybody for this webinar, and I hand it over to Madhura, who represents ILA, and Madhura will tell us about ILA quickly.
Yes, thank you, Smita. So firstly, congratulations to you and your team for the award ceremony, and you've been doing a great job in the PoSH vertical, and we're so proud and honored to be associated with you for more than 2 years now for this session series. And so my name is Madhura. I represent Indian Lawyers Association. We are a non-profit organization, a network of lawyers basically working across India, having 70 odd chapters doing different things in their own capacity, adding local flavor to ILA and its operations. So we recently did our first in-person event after the pandemic. It was the ILA Con annual conference that took place in Mumbai. So with this, we are excited to start more and more in-person activities across India, different cities, different people doing things, events, webinars, activities for students. So we'll be very happy to invite all of you, join us in whichever way you want to contribute, take back from the network, anything you wish to do as a lawyer or a legal professional. So we'll reach out to you with our details maybe by tomorrow on email. And for now, I hand it over back to Smita.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the great job that you all have been doing, bringing in the law fraternity together to pick our brains and give us a platform. So about KelpHR, folks who are listening to us for the first time, we incorporated 2013. We started with, we were the pioneers in setting up a PoSH company. Okay. In 2013, when PoSH came up, there was a lot of confusion because it was a legal document which came to people. It came to HR folks to implement it. And as generally how the legal document is worded, it was not simple to understand. So the idea of setting up KelpHR was to simplify it so that it reaches not only HR people, but it reaches each and every employee in the organization. So KelpHR started with a thought process that we'll simplify PoSH law, and we will bring every aspect of PoSH law under one umbrella. So over last 9 years that we have catered to 750 plus organizations in our tenure. We have evolved as an organization, simplifying the learning program, making learning program effective, creating policies, posters, which really reach Aam Janta, as we call it. Today, I have eminent people with us, and we've called them to pick their brains on this aspect. But before I start, okay, I'll introduce them because I think all of y'all would know them. Jyoti Grover first is the chairperson of Gurgaon LCC committee, a local complaints committee, And she was also a jury member at KelpHR PoSH Awards 2022. Jyoti founded Quadrangle Consulting in the year 2001 with a focus on behavioral assessment and development. As a member of IC and child protection committees in various organizations and schools, Jyoti has conducted several inquiries and workshops to skill members effectively in the space of PoSH Act and also juvenile justice. In January 2022, she was appointed chairperson of LCC, Gurugram district. Earlier, she was a member of the committee, and now she's the chairperson of the committee. Okay, she's currently mentor to leadership of Quadrangle Consulting and engages in executive coaching and leadership assessments. So she's also set up a not-for-profit entity, School of Life, in 2014. So there's many more things about Jyoti, but to ensure that you get the essence of it, and Jyoti, pardon me if I've not done justice to your introduction.
No, absolutely. In fact, keep it short. Thank you.
And I also want to introduce you to Geeta Jadhav, Captain Geeta Jadhav. I can't miss Captain because she has served Indian Army, and hats off to you for that. A woman serving Indian Army is rarest of the rare. So really warm welcome to you, Captain. So currently she's serving as the Chief Corporate HR, Tata Power, Mumbai, India. She's also the chairperson of PoSH there. She is Chief Diversity and Inclusion person in Tata Power and also takes care of health and wellness. She was a recipient of award of Asia's most influential woman in renewable energies. That's another one field where we find very rare women. So congratulations on that aspect also, Captain. She is, her qualification includes Bachelor of Law, advanced course in HRM from IIM Ahmedabad, MBA in Human Resources and Marketing Management from University of Pune, and BCS from University of Pune. She's a CII certified assessor, Tata Business Excellence internal assessor, and she's done work in, of course, Indian Army, as I mentioned to you. Her work experience in Tata Group, emerging leadership presidential post at Tata Management Training Center in Pune. She's an HR professional with experience across all HR aspects and employee relations, with over 2 decades of diverse and multi-regional experience. Currently, as I told you, she's serving as a CHRO. Okay, her experience ranges from being in the Tata Power Company to Tata Power Renewables Company, Bangalore, and Kirloskar Brothers. Also, she was a professor in SIMB, Symbiosis Institute of Business Management. I hope I have done justice to your introduction, Captain. You are on mute, Captain. We can't hear you.
I said, thank you so much. It was quite elaborate. You have covered like my entire journey in a nutshell.
I hope I've done it. If I've done any mistakes, please forgive me.
Yes, sufficient. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I would now take a little pause before we get into the discussion and present to all of you the 25 awardees of PoSH Awards, because each one of them needs that second of your eyeballs to see who were those people who really got those recognized as the 25 safest workplaces in India. Yeah, I'll be playing a video for you all. With that, I stop sharing it and I come back to our discussion for today, which is very, very important. A peek into the brains of Chief Human Resource Officer, who's also chairperson of a PoSH committee in Tata Power, and also a peek into LCC leaders head, and also who's an external member with various committees. She was also the jury who picked up these 25 organizations as the safest workplace. So we thought what best than bringing them together and asking them that, what do we do for the future? How do we plan 2023? So do you want to say anything before we get started, Captain and Jyoti?
So let me go first. I guess as a jury member, I just wanted to congratulate the team of KelpHR, because I think the vast, expansive design of this entire award is really very, very impressive. And I have been saying this in multiple forums, so I'm going to say it again, that I think the platform is also very contemporary. As a jury member, and I'm sure Captain Geeta will also probably mention this, that even as a participant, just putting all those details down is a moment of reflection. And to say that, yes, this is something that we didn't think about. And the platform is so seamless that you don't really need to struggle, with the navigation. And I think the results that come out pretty much reflect what, I used when I was going through the ratings. And I thought that was brilliant.
Great. Thank you so much. And that only enhances our confidence in the process. Thank you so much. Captain, anything from you before I have list of my questions? Before we get started, do you want to say anything about your journey as a member?
Firstly, many congratulations to all these 25 companies participated. And it's in the process itself.
Oh, did we lose her?
Yes, I think we did.
Oh, okay. All right. I think let's get started. I think by the time she joins back, we may have her. So, Jyoti, coming back to you, right? Policies, these were 5 things. When the law came in, there were 5 or 6 things that any organization was required to be doing, right? So what are those, like policies have to be there, processes have to be there, posters have to be there. Now, if I have to start from beginning, okay, if I have to ask you a question, any best practice that you recommend, okay, as an LC person, which would make policy dissemination effective? And as a jury member, did you come across something interesting?
So yeah, in fact, I've been kind of putting my head around this, because there were just so many companies, and I think all of these companies that we evaluated, each one of them had something unique. Okay. But it's like, because I've been in the space now for a while, what seems unique, you also now want to drill down and see, okay, really, is it really that different? And how much data do I have to support? Like, for example, in the questionnaire, there was this piece about what is the gender ratio, right? Now, typically, we know that a gender ratio around 40% is a pretty good ratio, 40% women and 60% men. Now, there was this one company, and I remember the name of the company also very distinctly, because I think they really wanted to highlight that. I think this was Linde. Linde said, we have one factory of only women employees. And that really stood out, because, they just said it with so much confidence in the way they kind of, put it in their submission. I would have wanted to know a little bit more, like if you're making that claim, what is the data to substantiate? Is it, they were saying it's the only women factory across Asia. And of course, that's taking it too far as well, because, you typically wonder that, are there jobs which are totally amenable to be handled, which are, let's say, gender agnostic? So, that's something really stood out. When I look at other companies, for example, from a policy dissemination point of view, I came across a few companies where and I think quite a few of those were Tata companies, they spoke about dissemination not just being posters. Okay, I think some thought had gone into it. I found the location very interesting. So this one company said, and they actually gave us, data where they had posted the posters in the washrooms. Very often, clients will ask, where to put it, and the response is you put it on the vantage points. So the description of vantage points itself is a little confusing to people. But I really thought that putting posters in washrooms is a very good thing to do, and it should actually be done by everyone. Because typically when a woman or a victim goes through, her first response would be to want to talk about it, or maybe, cry out in a corner. She may not want to do it in her workspace. So the place that she will go to is the washroom. And there she has this poster. So at least it'll probably give her a reassurance that, okay, I'm going through this, maybe I can just check. I thought that was really, really interesting. The other piece I found very interesting was saying that posters, we put it on our pantries. A lot of people don't give it a thought that why in the pantry, because pantry is a place frequented by everyone. Now in that space, and nobody will, and the posters need to be really catchy. So if they're in the pantry and they're not about, okay, this is sexual harassment, or this is the repercussions of sexual harassment, but if it is something like there's this one company, I forget the name of the company, but they had a mascot. Okay, so they had this mascot, Dr. Olivia or something, Olivia, Dr. Olivia. And that mascot, every week or every month, they would have something on the pantry where they would take up some very real dilemmas that people go through, which may not necessarily be sexual harassment, but they could lead to sexual harassment, like crossing of boundaries and so on. So I thought that, that thinking was very, very well done. There was this other company talking about dissemination of policies. They are not just talking about sexual harassment. They actually had a poster just talking about unconscious biases. Okay, and the unconscious biases, they had a little story around it. And this is what they had put in as a submission. And the whole, I think the substance of it was that, do you want to know more and how, we may be kind of hurting other people? Why don't you sign up for the program? So it wasn't like we are having a program on sexual harassment training, please make sure that you attend. But, the way it was communicated, I thought was really good. Some of the more forthcoming organizations have very consciously spoken about psychological safety and not just, sexual harassment as a, so the companies, I would say those who are different are the ones who are actually going beyond sexual harassment. They are going to, the triggers. And they're also going to the aftermath. So for example, you talk about psychological safety, it's before and after. So that was interesting. One company, I remember, had put out a whole research on what they have done with getting to know what blue-collar women go through. Which again, I thought was different, because here is a company making an effort to actually do a research around. So everybody in their measurement talks about that, we have it in our engagement surveys. We want to know how comfortable women are, but you're really segmenting the population now. And I think segmentation is very, very, very good. Something which I really want to point out was on the process side, a lot of companies have e-learnings and virtual learnings. To me, it's now become a tick in the box. But what some of the progressive organizations are doing, they are actually using digital tools and AI to cover the entire gamut. So it's not just about trainings, it's about resources, it's about trainings, obviously, but it's also about the status of your application. So, you have filed a complaint, so there is a access code provided to you. Everything is out there, including, the post. So just the entire journey, and you doing it digitally, actually makes it very easy. For the otherwise, what happens is, the complainant will keep sending mails.
Yeah.
What's the status of my complaint? I've had my cross-examination. What about the findings? What about the report? Now here, and then of course, you will have a tie-up with some counselor. So in case the person wants to talk to a counselor, so there is a 1-800 number given there. I think maybe one or two companies, I think they're doing it. What I felt bad about was, but these really, to me, were unique practices. Unfortunately, I don't think, everything just gets bunched because it was such a huge survey. So I don't know, some of these practices perhaps did not get the weightage they deserved. I just felt, that was something we could look at. One company talked about selection criteria they use for appointing IC members.
Wow.
Which was very good. I thought that's brilliant. You're not just doing it, okay, who's the senior most, okay, who's least controversial, let's appoint that person. So it was very, very, by the way, Geeta, I think, has joined.
Yeah.
I have to compliment, because I remember the Tata Power poster, they had done something around Diwali. I think it was brilliant. I leave it to the, to Geeta to talk about that. But it was, it's like posters have to tell a story, and they have to be very, I would say, contextual. It can't just be, okay, this is sexual harassment and this is the punishment. And, like you're creating a fear of God. It has to be culturally kind of embedded in the psyche of people who are working with you. On the process side, something else which I picked up was there were 2-3 companies, and I really loved what they were doing. So they said that, even when we are, let's say, asking for people to come in for interviews, and if they are women, we make sure that the interview appointments, etc., are within working hours. And if for whatever reason it's delayed, then we make sure that we provide them transport. Then there was one company which said that sometimes, because we want to showcase that we are very women-centric and very balanced. So when we have even applicants coming in, be it men or women, we encourage them to come with their children, so that they can see that, the children can be looked after. There is like a daycare center and so on. So, some of these are very, I would say, inclusive practices, which I thought, covered really well. I've just made some notes, Smita, so I'm just going to check. On the training, I found that everybody is doing case-based videos. 2 companies mentioned how they have actually partnered with a theatre company who comes and does regular theatre workshops. Now, I think a lot of these companies also are multinational, so they're also taking inspiration from what is happening globally. So that stuff may be unique to India, but not necessarily globally. But on the measurement side, everybody said whatever they said. But I really like the idea about mock drills and quizzes. One company talked about mock drills and quizzes.
Can you expand that? What do you mean by mock drill and quizzes?
So normally, you will do a training and then they will run an assessment. Okay. Now, this company, what it seems to be doing is that, they will suddenly, they will probably have it in their calendar. So just to create that little sort of surprise element, they will say, today we're going to be having a mock quiz on, how much you know about PoSH. And they'll probably have a little reward around it. Yeah. So it's like, you may not be thinking about it, because everybody, when they go in for a training, they know they're going to be assessed, so they make their notes or whatever. Here you're like caught by surprise. And this is something which I remember years ago, Motorola used to do for values. So they used to have like a quarter assessment on 4 value statements. And this is what I think this company seems to have taken a cue from. And then, a couple of companies are looking at an inclusion index. So they actually monitor the inclusion index. One practice which I've personally seen a lot of companies now adopting, I didn't see much of that in this group, was this practice where you look at PoSH or incidents of PoSH not as just incidents of PoSH, they are part of the larger safety framework of the company. And a lot of ESG consultants and ESG mandates now are covering that. So what they say is, just like you have in like industrial safety, or in whatever safety policies you have, like major accidents and minor accidents, and then you monitor and do an incident sort of evaluation. So sexual harassment cases or any incidents relating to misconduct around women has been categorized into major and minor depending on who's been the perpetrator, and it's monitored and reported like that. And I thought that was a very interesting way to follow through on the measurement. I think I'm just exceeding my time. I'll come back. Please go ahead.
Actually, I'd asked you only about policy, but you That's perfectly fine. Geeta, coming back to you. So what is the best practices from the policy perspective that Tata Motors take pride about? Is there any simpler way or methodology that y'all can think about, y'all can share with the larger group here?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Finally, I could, join with a lot of network issues here. In Tata Power, we whatever policies in any aspect, in fact, whenever we introduce, we try to benchmark it with industries. Since Tata Group itself is an ocean, so first we benchmark within the group, and also some of the organizations outside Tata's we consider. So when we design the policies, especially women centric, or maybe you can say code of conduct or values related. So benchmarking comes naturally to us. That is our attempt. And also provisions of act, like for PoSH, it is mandatory that we frame our policies within the guidelines provided in the PoSH Act. So that as a second point, is very important when we are designing. Also, some of the live examples, like what went wrong during the recent maybe inquiry, or how women are represented. What are the inputs we are receiving across the organization? Because Tata Power has presence not only in India, abroad. Of course, abroad rules and laws are different, but to the extent it is protecting women and all, they are similar. But it is a pan-India. The awareness which needs to be generated in the remote side is far different than the metros. So those aspects also we cover, like regional language sessions, and development of contractors to educate their contract employees whenever they enter into the premises. So they should be knowing what this organization is all about, and what kind of PoSH rules, regulations, and act itself defines to interact and behave with other colleagues. So these aspects we of course maintain in the form of the policy, so that it becomes a uniform guideline. Of course, local language and local representatives plays a very important role while actually generating that awareness. So these are some of the things we necessarily do it, apart from manager sensitizations, because not only for male employees but also for the female employees. So that also becomes a critical element of while designing the policy. If it doesn't go in the part of the policies, and we ad hoc that some kind of sometime quarterly you do it, sometime half-yearly you do it. So to avoid that, we maintain that as a regularly as a part of the policy. So it is policy asks for that. So tend to do it, and uniformly it is getting done. So a lot of modules we have actually customized, like Jyoti has said, skit, and through quiz also we try to generate that awareness among many employees. While the trainees they join from the campus, they are not very well aware, because they are coming from the engineering background, or maybe a normal graduation or a diploma. So to the extent MBA and law graduates, they are to the extent they are aware what is PoSH and what are the code of conducts in any particular organization. However, trainees who are engineers and all, so they need necessarily a training about do's and don'ts, what actually is the harassment, so that definition, and the platform, what is the ICC. So we govern all these things through the policies. And that policy has been circulated, available on the normal portal. Regular snippets are released. Then whenever the induction is happening, so it is part of the induction module also. So it has become a a regular process, so that through policy, you do it through the policy, then naturally it is done for all across locations in a uniform manner. Apart from that, we also have the regular approach for the LPRs, like local PoSH representatives, what we have apart from the committee. So each division has this LPRs. That is also circulated to all across, so that people are aware whom to approach. Women employees especially are aware who is the contact person, and what things causes as a sexual harassment. There are the sessions and the dialogues arranged in various platforms by SBU heads and all. So this certain inputs we put in the policy so that uniformity is there. A lot of digital
Captain, I would need a little bit clarity on what is this local PoSH
representative,
because
okay.
it's a very unique concept, and I'm sure audiences would want to know more about this.
So Tata Power is like, we have presence in almost all states, and in one particular state we'll have 4 to 5 sites, or maybe more than 10 sites. So and if they are women or not women employees, we should have a local representative. And law also suggests that irrespective of a gender, you must have a representative. So in Tata Power, what we have done, we have identified a senior women employee, of course eligible for that, to handle and has a thorough knowledge on the process, so that she represents, she's a PoSH representative. So local PoSH representative is nothing but someone who can, women employees or the employees can approach if there is some kind of concern need to be raised. And why women employee? Basically, so that all women employees, or anyone for that matter, can come without hesitance and share the issues. That is the purpose of having women as a chairperson or a women local representative. So so that comfort is there. So in Tata Power, all the divisions, all the sites, all the locations, we have a LPR. Quarterly, we have this LPR, local PoSH representative meetings. What all things they are doing for generating awareness, training. Are there any concerns raised? What are the cases registered? What is the evaluation and all that thing? So that get discussed, analyzed, and as per the provision of law, it gets submitted. So that is the format we follow in Tata Power.
Okay, that's something very unique, because not every organizations, I mean, most of the organization don't do it. And I think it is one of the best practices. We should lap it up and see, especially very large organization like yours. And there are multiple such large organizations who must be listening to this. And, it's a great initiative, Captain. Yeah.
So apart from that, just to add on what Jyoti has said, like, we have this counseling partner also. So basically, sometimes it just, verbal, some communication, and maybe there is a hesitance and, not communicating directly and all that thing. So there is a counseling partner also. So we have this facility available for the employees. So basically, you can engage, you can share your pain points, your issues, etc. And it becomes little easy for a colleague or employee to handle that scenario. So that kind of platform is also available in Tata Power. Apart from leadership dialogues and all that things, it becomes natural for huge organization like Tata Power, because we have around 20 plus locations, which I told you. So one dialogue actually and capturing all the audience, it makes easy for us to engage and with clear communication. So that's all things we actually incorporate to policies and processes. Basically, in the spirit it is done, not that we just want to comply. And that's the unique thing we do it in Tata Power. Like, we do it with the spirit.
So counselors, you mentioned, Captain, is it somebody who's internal, or it's an external partner? And what would be the reasons if it is internal or external? So
basically, it is external. In fact, it is more to do with the maybe psychological counseling or mental process. So it is external purely, because internally then becomes little maybe a comfort issue also, whether to approach or not. So it is typically external. It is confidential, one-on-one. It is available for all employees irrespective of a gender. So that also becomes a very important, especially for the young employees who are staying away from their families, come to the new place, and if they have been encountered with any kind of situation, maybe related to PoSH, or maybe some kind of a mental issue, or some kind of a loneliness, etc., which can cause them the disturbance. So that platform is available to all the employees.
Got it.
Including women employees here.
Superb. And Jyoti was mentioning about the Diwali poster, which was very interesting. Can you share with us what it is? Yes. So, thank you, Jyoti, for actually, mentioning that. In fact, it is something creative we wanted to do it, because year on year, you can't just communicate in the same way. You have to come up, and nowadays creativity plays an important factor of communication to keep that audience engaged with whatever you communicate. So basically, for the Diwali, we have this for like 10 like Ravanas, so it's like 10 your issues, and you address that basically, and how you can to positivity you can encounter, or you can just eradicate those feelings of the employees. So that way we wanted to make it more creative, communicate, and one of my team member actually came with this idea, and we have actually released across Tata Power group of companies, and it has been well received.
So through informative posters, infographics, etc., it becomes very easy for employee also to relate.
Yeah.
Because most of the time picture says better than the words
Thousand
what
words.
you want to communicate. Yeah.
Recently,
what-
I read a tweet from one of the senior leaders who said that PoSH is a very serious subject and should be communicated very seriously. I actually did not agree to it because I feel that communication is broken if it is not reached to the level of the person who's receiving it. And if the person understands simple language, easy, and maybe a fun fact to it, then I think, you can't be very serious about the subject. Of course, the matter is serious, but how do you communicate can be simple, can be fun, can be something like the poster, Diwali poster you just mentioned, right? Which would have been fun also, but it reached every person in the organization and was well received. I think that's a brilliant aspect. And that is what we want to hear from you, that what differently do you think do you do from training perspective? Do you all break it up into employees, leaders, senior leadership team? Is senior leadership involved in PoSH, or do they shrug it off saying, oh, we really understand, or we don't want to understand? So what is the logic? What is it? What is the thought process there?
So in terms of, it's very important that, there is a involvement of leadership, because this PoSH is not only it's a women act, it is basically to do with the other gender than the women, of course, there is a lot of involvement, and we live, as I told you, we do it in the spirit rather than the compliance. A lot of communication happens, in fact, on unbiased approach, to follow unbiased approach. In fact, a lot of training we are actually delivering through senior leadership or senior experienced officers in Tata Power on avoiding unbiased conscious, unconscious, like you are thinking something but communicating something, or you are judgmental at the time. So it's a lot of share, like programs we try to communicate or message we want to through a lot of town halls and whatever we organize. So we try to communicate these all things through leadership, especially senior leaders, as you said, because the involvement is must, and this has to be top driven. It's not like that. We just educate junior resources and make them aware, but each and every employee, including a contract employee, becomes responsible for this entire process, and as a partner in the process.
I think that's a great input, that everybody should be involved, and it shouldn't be just HR. I hear this a lot. It's an HR driven subject, and HR drives it, and leaders are sitting in one corner and saying, I have nothing to do with it, right? So coming back to our post-pandemic effect, Jyoti, this question is for you about virtual workplaces, right? Posters are, if you look at the law, says it should be put up in office premises, in conspicuous places, and you mentioned it very rightly that in work, in restrooms also, you saw somebody putting up. Now, what happens to those virtual workplaces? I'll tell you one of our cases where after pandemic or during pandemic, one of the employee wanted to raise a sexual harassment complaint, but we were not going to office, and it was against a customer, right? So we didn't know customers IC because we couldn't go to the customer's office to read the poster. So in such scenarios where virtual workplaces are on, what do you think could be the best way of displaying those posters?
So if I go back to the the submissions, there were clients who have got screensavers. So a lot of the information, especially regarding where to complain and all of that, it's very nicely and very effectively put up in the screensaver. Most other companies would have, if you very consciously put it on their website. And most companies nowadays also have apps. So it's pretty much there as part of their apps as well. Because they also have chatbots now. So on the website or on the app, So let's say, like in your client situation, if the client had a chatbot, the person, either the IC of the complainant company or the complainant herself, could just reach out on the app, and start chatting and get details from there. So these are some international norms also. I don't see that happening very much in India, not the mobile app, but yeah, website, yes, they talk about a zero tolerance policy. And, if you are aggrieved and if you're a contractor or a vendor or a supplier, then this is where you need to go. So these are some of the other things that you take care of in the virtual world. So a lot of companies now are contemplating going into the metaverse as well.
Wow.
It's quite interesting. I had this conversation because they are a company which is into retail. So in any case, they are there, out there in metaverse. So as part of the backdrop, because you take on these different avatars. So you also have as part of the backdrop, like, I'm a champion of whatever. So that's also a possibility.
Extending, Jyoti, what you mentioned about putting it up on the website. I hear this, okay, that don't make too much noise about it, and don't showcase it too much, then I'll get more cases. Any input for those people who think that way?
I mean, it's like you are trying to create a culture. You don't put it out there. What will the complainant do? Go to social media, Twitter, blogs, Glassdoor, Indeed, you name it and they will be there. Why not just give them the opportunity? I mean, psychologically, when you know that you have a forum out there, you can reach out formally, you will not unnecessarily drag the company into a cultural nonsense. So, I mean, that's really something they need to think about.
Absolutely. And I mentioned earlier about, and I wanted to hear from you also about one of the senior leader who said that, PoSH is a very serious topic and should be narrated, or awareness should be conducted in a very serious way. Do you have any input on that, Jyoti?
In fact, I've also got feedback. I was once doing a training and, somebody pinged that, why are you smiling when you're conducting this virtual session? Isn't this a very serious topic? And I think there is merit in what your leader is saying and the feedback I got, because somewhere, in the levity, the serious message might be getting lost. So it has to be a balance. You need to, maybe you can start with something which may seem to be a little less serious because you really want to build that rapport. But the messaging, especially the messaging of what your role is as a bystander, for example, or the messaging that these are the repercussions, that if so, that part has to be done seriously. And my own take on that, the tweet is, he's not just talking about delivering the message seriously, but he's also saying, guys, take note. This is a serious topic. Give it serious attention. So have it in your calendar. It's not a tick in the box. So I'm looking at it, like that.
All right. I think that's a great perspective. Geeta, anything from your input on how do we conduct or speak about this language? How should it be conveyed?
So see, posters and communication plays a very critical role in this serious subject, as we all see it. It is because it's an act, and anything comes within the purview of law, it has to be followed in spirit. So in Tata Power, like what we do, these posters, yes. So it is not only limited to offices, but across our guest houses, maybe a transport facility also, buses, and also it is there. Also our visitors office, etc. So there we also keep these posters live. Also we have this communicated through a video. In fact, we have this bites prepared, so it keeps running because it's like values and ethics and PoSH and safety and all other critical elements which are necessary in the organization. So we have this videos running across, like frequent intervals. So that's way, and the posters necessarily need to be very informative. It should speak for itself. It should not be very clumsy. The young people as well as the very senior women employees or other employees should be able to understand it, relate it. Of course, language plays a very important role. It is in the different languages we have, because we are in Calcutta, we are in Jharkhand, we are in North India, Punjab, and also language plays a very important. We are in the Karnataka, so of course we cannot have just English, because it applies to the contract employees, it applies to the union and workforce, of course management employees and all. So it plays a very important role to how you communicate, how you make it more relatable to these all employees. That is one part we do it. It should be self-explanatory also. So we at this time we have started making it very in a creative manner. Because earlier, like typically, you have that picture where standard themes are there, but right now we made it from the young generation point of view, or some kind of through cartoons also, like what is there, the language also, like no means no, all that, something like new things we added up, and it becomes more and people started appreciating that, and somebody is looking at those posters. Otherwise it becomes, whenever it is required, people look at it. Lifts and all we have put up. So that kind of creativity plays very important role in any such aspect, especially related to the subject like this. So that we are very often we are doing it, and of course, like leadership and all, I spoke about that. It is top driven. It is compulsory. We try to give the message through our actions also, like how we treat each concern or the issues raised, and how we solve it, and how we actually deal with those issues. So that also plays a very important role for employees to understand, like how serious and how much importance the organization is giving to this particular aspect. So from Tata Power, of course, it is a pan-India. In the same way, same gist, it gets communicated and received by all across employees. We have 20,000 plus employees, and we complied and coming year on year in this top bracket of safe and secure workplace. So for us, it is very important thing.
Yeah, I think it is Tata Power's third year.
Yes, third year.
Yes, I'm so glad. And I would want to hear from you, Captain, about do you all have any specific best practices? I mean, we know a law has been laid down for case handling, that these are steps, these are the timelines, these are the structures, okay? But anything over and above the law, any specific best practice that you all follow in case handling?
Yeah. So, of course, law has its own guidelines, but first important thing is nothing get unnoticed. If it is represented, it managed, within time, you keep aside all your important activities, but this becomes a very important and serious. So that much of, way we handle it. That is first thing we do it in the organization. Why people feel safe and secure? Because they have the trust in the organization, irrespective of who is actually there in the committee and all. But they have, over the period, they have generated the trust. So that's what we try to face, that this is the best practice we have. And across the organizations, what we try to do is the manager sensitization program, which I spoke about, that we have started. Manager sensitization, it also is a part of a diversity and inclusion. So, and it also helps you in generating the awareness for the manager. It is irrespective of gender, male, female, that how we deal with the, your subordinate, especially women employees. And this manager sensitization programs actually plays a very important role in handling women employees, their career, their aspirations, and their work format in the organization. So how supportive you are, what kind of gender neutral language you are enforcing in the organization. So this is one of the things we have started recently, sensitization program under diversity and inclusion. This is one of the things I can vouch for, that this is working well in organization from the diversity and inclusion point of view, because we are practicing this from at least 7 to 8 years, I can say, this sensitization programs. Third important is, like, we always keep learning from international organizations, that how they are making workplace more inclusive. Like while in India we do that, but a lot of developing countries, they have the practices that you use a gender neutral language. Now stop saying that, this policy is for the posh, is for women, and diversity is again for the women, or you make the organization language as without he or she. It's a employee, irrespective of a gender. So if once you start that, gender becomes a secondary, because we don't hire people just because they are women or male. We hire because of their competence. So once that understanding and the maturity entering into our organization, it becomes little easy. So we learn from the international organizations also, because Tata Power has a pan-India presence, as a global presence across. So that is a second important thing. And also this quiz and competitions also we run during this February and March during the year. So basically we have this Ethics Week celebration, Safety Week organized. So during that time, it becomes easy for us, because there's a mass gathering. There's a message from the leadership on various these issues and the initiatives. So in that, we also have this PoSH and diversity and inclusion included. So it becomes like a part of the process, and it gets its due importance. So that's how we manage to do a lot of things, and we keep doing it. It's generally we don't do it during the Women's Day. Okay, suddenly you become important, Women's Day, and you start some programs running for women employees and take them for some, some kind of slot and somewhere. But it is on the quarterly basis we keep doing it. We are now next year onwards we are planning to have a proper calendar rolled out. Now we have our internal calendar, but right now we are thinking of like rolling out so that everybody can actually know that yes, we are doing it. And we are going to do it in a spirit.
Great, superb. I think rolling out calendars actually already starting to think that this is the plan, because KelpHR sees that in the last quarter, especially December, there is so much of rush to finishing employee awareness programs, because they have to report it in January. I mean, we are then there is a lot of check in the box activities, which we are not happy doing what we are doing. Okay, so it is important, and we keep pushing back and say that, this is something that should not be done, should be planned. And that's the reason why we are starting the conversation in January and saying it loud and clear, that put up these calendars. These calendars are important for you, for employees. So you're doing a very well thought out process rather than rushing it at the end, just as a check in the box. Jyoti, the question for you is, any best practice in case handling that you noticed? And you spoke about something about conciliation, right? Conciliation to case handling. Would want to hear from you that what is it that you wanted to bring about?
So, in case handling, I don't think the submissions were detailed enough. What we did get to know were, okay, how many cases were conciliated and, what were the punishments. But in terms of, whether there were appeals, how long it took, that kind of information was not available. But what I have seen of other companies who follow this through very diligently is that, one, there are companies who are very particular about the 90-day period. And there are a few who couldn't be bothered. The case goes on for like 3 months, 6 months, and there's always reason why it hasn't, progressed further. So one is the adherence to timelines, even though the Act talks about the timelines, but doesn't really have a monetary or a penal consequence of, not adhering to timelines. So that's something which companies are the good companies are very particular about. The other piece is the training they hold with the IC members on unconscious biases. That I think is very, very important, because earlier on, I used to see, people would just make up their minds. Complaint has come. The woman is definitely aggrieved. Suspend the accused. That shift I have seen now. It has started, coming in. The third thing is that when I go back to the data, termination has been given a lot of importance. Most submissions were that we have terminated. I was pleasantly surprised to also see good instances of conciliation, and I'm really happy to know that, because even in the local committee, I have seen, and local committee is a little different from the internal committee, because internal committee, a lot of people, will continue, will persist, will create a lot of murmurs of discontent, but not do much, because they are wanting to work in the company. But when a case comes to the local committee, I would say every second case goes into appeal, or they will get a high court stay to say that it's not in the jurisdiction. So these are all tactics that people use, which only gets very, very murky. So very consciously, this last year, when I took on the chairpersonship, I was like, let's not go into that level, even though for certain cases, that, you need to go through a complete thorough investigation, and, because a lot of the cases we get are founder cases. So that's when I actually started really pushing for conciliation. And honestly, it has helped, because what conciliation does is, very often the complaints that come are about, they're not all about, section 3, quid pro quo and so on. Most of them are about physical, verbal harassment, which if both the parties are willing, they sit across the table, emotions are running high, you just talk through it. The matter does not become so public, and it really helps. So it was good to know that conciliation was being used. There was also, a school of thought which believes that conciliation means the sorry bol diya to kya ho gaya, so after that he'll probably just, repeat this with somebody else. So the process of conciliation is very, very important, which means that after you have, got the apology, you actually close it with a conciliation draft on a stamp paper, because see, then it lends credence, and it also works like a deterrent. On a stamp paper, you do the conciliation agreement, and in that agreement, the clauses you put down always will cover not just this case, but any other person. So when you do something like this, it actually helps. It's actually worse than issuing a written warning.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a deeper conversation, and I already see some people asking or itching to ask some technical questions. Should I allow that as the question? So yes, Prerna, maybe you can ask a technical question.
Thank you, Jyoti ma'am and Geeta ma'am. It's a very informative session. I just actually had a very quick question. I think the biggest confusion, which I think at least I've not been able to decipher in the Primary Act, is that how is this annual return filed? And I'm asking this question because now the date is coming, and you have to pick location, you have to pick jurisdiction. If one company has more than one location, is it filed at the head office level, or if they're different, if they're in different states? Clients are very adamant on how they want to pursue with this annual report. They don't. Then they ask questions. Should we even establish more ICU in different locations if you're filing, if the filing is required? So there are like multi-level questions with regards to formation of IC and filing of annual return.
Prerna, I think it is really a technical question, and let's do one thing. You can call me. I'll leave you my number. You can call me, and I will help you with all your set of questions. Is that okay? Because this
sure. Thank you.
It will take more than we just have 2 minutes. It will definitely take more than 2 minutes. I'll leave my number on this chat here. In the meantime,
thank you,
Captain. Any closing conversation, any closing input for best practices at workplaces, organizations aspiring for it? And Jyoti, while Captain is thinking from jury perspective, what do you think organizations should be doing to apply for Best Safe Workplaces Award for the next year? Captain, starting with you.
Yes. Yeah. So see, PoSH Act came into the force like 2013, and it is very critical and important act, what I feel. And all the organizations, irrespective of number what PoSH Act proposes, suggests, I think it has to be this act has to be lived by all the organizations, ensured by the PoSH committee that it is followed. Awareness need to be generated, because today's young employees, women employees especially, they are timid in particular. Some way they are bold. However, the kind of representation on all, there is a lot of hesitance, like always. So how we can actually ensure that they are given that confidence, and because as a woman I feel that, because I'm coming from the defense background, it is totally a male dominated. So that time this kind of things were not, I was not even aware like something like that exists, and it was not there. So we didn't actually know that, my colleagues and also. Right now I feel there is a platform, there is an act. So employees need to be made aware of these things, their rights, and it should be popularized. They should be given a platform. And we need to be vigilant that if something like this goes, then have a conversation, ensure that they feel confident in sharing. This kind of atmosphere we need to generate. First important thing is that. Secondly, like we need to create a lot of role models in the organization, whom people can approach, talk about, and look up to, like somebody that mentor or some kind of sounding board. If that kind of platform, because we hire many women employees, around 30 to 40%, we hire a young workforce. So I feel this is very important from the organization perspective. Also receiving award from KelpHR, like renowned organization, year on year, and sustaining there, it puts a lot of responsibility for us also, how differently now we are approaching to the issues, how differently you are engaging with the community, employees, etc. So a lot of responsibility comes on the organization, the management, and the ICC as well. Third important thing is like, if there are no concerns, that is the biggest concern, So how we can ensure that, every concern is addressed appropriately, given the due weightage. Every action is not a terminable. Of course, there are a lot of intermediate actions also we can do. So a lot of awareness, lot of sensitization is required still in India, in a lot of organizations, and our journey starts with that. So let's keep doing this in a very appropriate manner in the frame of law, and from the women-centric, that perspective we need to build the organization. That's what I feel. And then it's a long journey to achieve when we'll have that, no fear, no issues in the organization, but we need to live for that. Yeah, that long.
Such a beautiful insight. I mean, it's a journey, and we are set on the right path. And I think having ambassadors, multiple things that we're learning from Tata Power. And thank you very much for showcasing us that what is it that goes in building a safe workplace. And as you rightly said, from where we come, we didn't even know all these processes. We didn't know about the law at all. Okay, and to be able to create a safe workplace for 30 to 40% of women is amazing. Great job. Congratulations on that part, Captain. I move to Jyoti. Jyoti, jury insight.
Okay, so I'm going to just break it up and very quickly because I know we're out of time. If let's say you were to apply to the awards again, request to all the submissions that give a little more detail into, for example, if you're talking about cases, you don't have to share reports, but at least share briefly the recommendations and the conclusions that you arrived at, because that gives an idea as to what kind of thinking and what kind of competence the IC has, built up. So that's something which I saw was missing in a lot of submissions. The other was focus on measurement. So very important. And that measurement is not just engagement surveys. It's more about, that whole culture that Captain Geeta was talking about. How do you measure that? Can you segment it? What is working and what have you really changed? Because everybody talks about we've introduced this and we've done this, but what is the implication of that? Didn't see that much, and it would be good to, see that. A separate segment, I think we need to have, Smita, which is the IC speak, because the ICs go through their own share of, learnings and experiences. And if, let's say, in the submission, a particular company actually shared the IC insights, I would say, would be something better and more, I would say it would kind of add up, because we get the employee voice and we get the employer voice. But in the whole process, where is the IC voice? Because, for example, there was a question, in the awards where we were asking people about how often do you skill up your ICs and what is the role that ICs play? Now, everybody practically wrote that IC is into redressal and IC is also into prevention. But what exactly is it doing in prevention was not shared. Similarly, like, we talk about a journey and we say, okay, do you have a calendar? Quite a few added and posted their calendar, but that many didn't. So we don't know. You're saying you have a calendar, but we don't know what you're doing in that calendar. If it's a journey, you would probably want to see something happening on a monthly or a quarterly basis. But if you don't have that information, then, how do you go? A part which I think a lot of companies are now beginning to talk is about diversity inclusion and, the percentage, and assuming that there are companies which actually have some of that. wanting to hear their voice, because LGBTQ inclusion in certain roles. So what are those categories of roles where they have been employed? I think it's good to it reflects on how much thinking has gone through in that. And finally, this whole piece about talking about culture through videos. So there was one company which had done that, but one would want to see more of that, because audio, people can listen to that, and podcasts where people are talking about culture, not necessarily about prevention of sexual harassment, but talking about culture. And in that, this also comes up. I mean, there's just so many things, but yeah.
There is so many things. I think we can sit for an hour and list down the whole things. And that is exactly what we are trying to do. As we speak, we are building up a document of all the best practices. And we will be circulating it across for everybody to read through it, pick up from it. And that is the idea. So I think we have come to the end of the conversation. And this is one question that I see on the group. Can I quickly ask? It says that when ICC believes that the complaint is false and malicious and recommends punishment on complainant or any witness of false and malicious complaint or evidence, is there any separate inquiry needed for establishing malicious intent? Anybody wants to take it? I know it's off the subject, but...
So I have handled a couple of these complaints, and I can tell you that it is the same inquiry, but it's handled very, very carefully, because establishing malicious intent is not easy. So you have to go through the same thing. It's like if you've already finished with, let's say, examination, cross-examination, conclusion, and then you again restart, because the complaint is still the same. Yeah. But it's just seen from another perspective.
Yeah, it's now flipped. The respondent becomes the complainant, the complainant becomes the respondent. So it's just...
Yeah, and it will not really a PoSH complaint then, because you follow the process as Jyoti said, but it will become, a complaint.
A disciplinary inquiry, maybe.
Disciplinary inquiry.
Yeah. All right. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much, both of you. I think there's a lot of time y'all have invested with us, and the idea was to set a context to build in this and get people started to think in the month of January, put up the calendar, start thinking, reflect, go to the drawing boards and come up with something which will be unique for their organization. And if you noticed, it was beyond compliances. Today, whatever we spoke about was not check in the box. It was beyond compliances. And there are many, many organizations who are working towards it. They are not just filling up annual report because they have to, but they are filling it because they mean to do it right. So I think we have some amazing audiences here live also on LinkedIn, and this conversation has just begun and it will keep going on. So thank you very much, Captain, and thank you very much, Jyoti. Thank you very much for spending this time with us.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Jyoti, and all colleagues. Thank you so much.
Everybody, thank you. Bye.
The audience are amazing. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.